Change the changeable, accept the unchangeable, and remove yourself from the unacceptable. Dennis Waitley. My guest today is Jen Hogue. Jen is a change management consultant and keynote speaker. Hi, my name is Chrissy Bartles, and welcome to the Stop Dreaming, Get It Done podcast, where you come to get inspired to stop dreaming about what you want to do and start implementing the things you need to do to get it done. Jen has a master's degree in leadership studies with a specialization in organizational change management. Over the years, she has acted as a consultant to leaders during times of organizational change and has conducted both workshops and speaking events in leading change for managers and executives and empowering yourself through change for individual contributors. It is with great pleasure that I introduce you to Jen Hogue, change management consultant and keynote speaker. I have a very special guest today because I think what she does is really, it's a game changer, not only in the business arena, because I feel like when people are happy at work, they are happier at home, and that makes for a better world all around. So truly, this type of thing that she does is life-changing. I just wish more people took advantage of it. Jen Hogue is my guest today. She is a change management consultant and keynote speaker. You can look her up at her website at jen-hogue.com. And I don't even want to continue talking anymore because I'm so excited to introduce you. Hi, Jen. Welcome on the podcast.
Hi, thank you.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm good. It's early, but I've had 2 cups of coffee. I've got my water here. I'm good to go.
Well, thank God for coffee. But you look amazing. You look like you've been up for hours.
Well, thank you. You look amazing too.
Oh, thank you. That's nice. So I would like to just dive right in. What do you do?
So as you said, I'm a change management consultant and keynote speaker, but I also run workshops and training events in change management. So as a consultant, I help leaders transition their teams through change with the least possible resistance. So I also help individuals navigate the emotional hardships of change.
Wow. So that's a lot. So, I mean, just to kind of give our listeners what is change management?
Yeah, so change management really focuses on that people side of change. You know, historically, organizations tend to focus on the technical side of change, the process, the new system, the restructure, but they forget that change happens through people, you know, one person at a time. There is a very real emotional reaction to change, and people need to be supported throughout that. So in order to speed up the rate of adoption and really ensure quality of adoption, people must be supported. So, you know, change can be exciting, but it's also hard. Think about buying a new house, starting a new job, changing a process, or implementing a new system. And this is very hard. You know, it's exciting. For example, I moved back in September, and it was super exciting. I got my own home, yay. But I had to pack. I had to get rid of a bunch of stuff that I was attached to because I was moving into, you know, a smaller space, albeit my own space. And that was a painful process. And then there's moving in, where you're in boxes and your clothes are in bags and they're wrinkled and you're trying to unpack while also managing a life, you know, and taking your kids to extracurriculars. So change is painful and we need to manage that. So as a change management consultant, I really help leaders and individuals understand that emotional reaction to change. And then also, you know, identify activities to ease those pain points and navigate change more smoothly. So I'll do an exercise with you, Chrissy. So clasp your hands like this. So how does that feel?
Normal, comfortable.
Yeah, feels normal and comfortable, right?
Yes.
You don't think about it. So now I want you to clasp your hands with the opposite thumb than you're used to. How does that feel?
Hold on. I'm trying to think about how to do it.
Exactly.
Okay, I did it.
All right.
Not comfortable.
That experience. It's uncomfortable. Why do you think it's uncomfortable?
Because I'm not used to it. I always do it the other way.
Yeah, you're used to doing it one way, and now you're being asked to do it a different way. It's uncomfortable. You have to be intentional about it. It feels weird and awkward. But I can tell you that I've done this exercise hundreds of times, I feel like, at this point. And since I've done it with the people I'm telling to do it, it's actually pretty comfortable now, putting that opposite thumb over the one that I'm used to doing. Why? Because this too shall pass, right? When we go through change, eventually it does get comfortable. But the point here really is that I help leaders make sure that their people do get through that transition as smoothly as possible and really get through that awkwardness and that weirdness and being uncomfortable a lot faster.
I love that, because it seems like that simple little exercise it crosses the barrier to both sides. So the leader and the employee both can identify with that and link them together in a way that they might not have been able to, they couldn't bridge that gap. And with this simple exercise, so I mean, I'm sure that's just one tiny little piece in your toolkit of how you help in change management, but why is it important?
For leaders to understand, for me to make that connection for leaders?
Yeah.
Because they need to understand that it's not just a process change, that it's not just a restructure, that there are actually people being impacted, and that's going to be very uncomfortable for them because they're used to doing it one way, or they're used to reporting to one person. And all of a sudden you're going, hey, you're going to do things differently. You need to learn a new process. You need to report to a new person. Think about learning a new system, right? Well, you're an expert in the old system. And while the new system might be better and improve things like SLAs, right? It's still going to be this trying transition period where you're very uncomfortable. You have to ask questions again. You have to look for answers. You're slower to get back to your customers. That can be frustrating and even depressing for a while. Think about reporting to a new person. Well, you don't know that person. You don't know their expectations of you. You did with your old boss. So there's this adjustment period, and leaders really need to understand that people are going through that there is this real emotional toll on people. And I really help leaders understand that emotional toll, but more importantly, find activities that can help ease those pain points. And I should say, I don't only help leaders. I also do workshops for individual contributors, right? So for the employees, that really help them understand their own emotions and how they can take action as well to empower themselves throughout the change process.
That really is important. And, you know, I kind of have my own, I had an experience as an employee where a lot was placed on my shoulders that I didn't know how to do, and heavy stuff, like with clients that were big clients that it was terrifying. But I tend to be called Cool Hand Luke because nobody would know that I was freaking out. But it was just handed over to me with no training and no idea. I had no idea what I was doing, what the process was like. It was just handed to me. I was completely I was spending the rest of my nights, you know, trying to teach myself my job. And it became so stressful. I was so upset and so angry. And I couldn't understand why they would I feel like I'm a very valuable asset to any organization because I work my butt off. I do my best outside of work hours to learn what I'm trying to do. And you know, when I know what I'm doing, like sales and marketing, I'm insanely confident. Nothing can stop me. If I don't know something, easy peasy, I'll figure it out. But in this, it was a project management role for web design. And I just didn't know what to do. And my mentor, when she recognized that I didn't know what to do, she just did it for me. So she put it back on herself to do the thing that I was hired to do continuously. And so I guess what that leads me to, just kind of giving you that glimpse into what I think a lot of employees do. It's shocking to me when I go into help an organization that they don't train their employees.
Yeah.
Not training employees is crazy. So I guess my question is, how can leaders best help their teams navigate change? But I feel like some of that is also new employees.
Yeah.
Those people that are already working there, when they get new tasks or, you know, like a new business takes them over or whatever it is, it's almost like they just became a new employee, right? Is what you're saying, because they were doing something they were an expert at, and now they're not. So how can leaders best help them?
Yeah, so, you know, the most important thing that leaders can do, truly, the most important in terms of really managing that resistance is communication. Communicate, communicate, communicate. You really cannot over communicate during times of change. There are several different factors that you want to be able to communicate. The first thing is why, right? Why are we changing? You really need to help people understand that there is a reason, a good motivating purpose for changing. So often leaders forget this part. They just say, this is what we're doing now, change. Well, we're adults. We need motivation. We're not kids, right? We can't just be told to do something. So why are we changing? What's the value, right? It's kind of like that problem solution attitude. There is a problem, right? Something is not working effectively. Here's the solution. It's going to improve things for you. And that's another thing that's really important to communicate. It's called the WIFM. What's in it for me? People, again, are motivated by the value of something, right? So there's something exciting. There's something in it for me. We have to be able to communicate that. What exactly is changing? Again, details, details, details. The less ambiguity around a change, the more receptive people are going to be to changing. When are we going to change, right? Give them a timeline. Again, it really just goes back to making things as clear as possible. Because again, the less ambiguity, the more receptive people will be to change and the more excited. The how will we be supported? You know, going back to your situation, what training am I going to get? What resources am I going to have at my disposal to be successful? Because a lot of people fear that they won't be successful during a change because they're not being supported and they don't feel like they're going to get to the other side of that. So communication is absolutely the most important thing. Also, you really want people to feel like they are a part of something. So let them provide feedback and then more importantly, act on it, right? Solicit that feedback, get their ideas to improve the change process, to improve whatever it is that you're trying to fix, and then act on it as a leader. When people feel like they are involved in the process, that they're helping build the change, again, they're going to be much more receptive to be a part of it because during times of change, we feel powerlessness and that is uncomfortable. So give them a little bit of that power back, a little bit of control back by letting them be involved somehow in the process. They also need to recognize different types of resistance and apply best practices for mitigation. There are three major types of resistance that we can see. There is, I don't get it, I don't like it, and I don't like you, okay?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, but it's true. Those are the three major types. And there are ways to deal with this, right? There are best practices. So if you think about, I don't get it, just exactly what I was talking about with communication, the why, the WIFM, the what, the how, the when. If they don't like it, emphasize that value, right? What is exciting? Get them excited about it, get them involved. If they don't like you, this is really about building trust, right? And there are several different ways that we build trust. We need to honor our commitments. We need to communicate. We need to solicit and act on feedback. And again, involve them in decision-making. We need to be their advocate. We've got to be honest and transparent. We need to show appreciation. And we need to create an inclusive environment. And you know, something that goes along with building trust is you've really got to foster meaningful relationships within your team. So Chrissy, I'll ask you, do you feel like you've had a friend at work? Let's go back to your situation where you were not being supported as a new employee. So you probably did not feel like you had a friend at work. Is that a good assumption?
Yes.
Yeah. So when we have a friend at work, when we feel like we have those meaningful relationships, we are more engaged and we are happier and we are more readily able to accept and embrace change. And when that happens, we're more productive, right? So we're a better asset to the company. So how do we do this? Well, we need to have team building activities, make work a little fun, okay? We need to build connection through shared activities. We need to leverage technology, right? Use video like we are right now. So often people are communicating through emails or they're just doing phone calls. So you can't really see people. When we see people, we feel like we're forming a deeper connection with them. You really need to prioritize that employee interaction and engagement and create those opportunities for interaction. Another thing that leaders need to do is to celebrate small wins throughout the change process, right? Don't just give them the big picture, give them milestones along the way that's going to tell them, you know what, we're being successful, things are working, and celebrating that throughout the process. Hey, look at our SLAs. This is an improvement. And reward and recognize, right? How can you reward and recognize? Write them in a letter, write a handwritten note. We never do that anymore, so that's really exciting. Give them a certificate, give them a $10 gift card to Starbucks, recognize them in a team meeting. So these are things that are really important and probably the most critical things that leaders can do to make that transition more smooth.
How can the individual empower themselves through the change?
So that's really important. You know, no matter how well our leaders are trying to transition us, it's really up to us, right? We need to empower ourselves. Yeah. They can help us, they can guide us, but at the end of the day, I've got to embrace it on my own. So I think that the first and most important thing to understand and accept is what you can influence and what you cannot, okay? So having a negative attitude about a change is not going to make it go away. We can't influence other people's actions or opinions or behaviors or the fact that a workplace change is happening. We can influence the way that we respond to it, our own behaviors, our actions, the skills we choose to learn, the knowledge you choose to gain. So with that said, there are really two ways of approaching life. We can either be reactive or proactive, okay? Mm-hmm. Reactive people complain about things that they can't control. They let the environment and outside forces affect their mood and how they perform. They additionally don't take action on those things that they can influence and control. Whereas proactive people, they don't complain about things that they can't control. They realize that their decisions determine their life, and they do take action on those things that they can control. And as a result, guess what? They are happier people, okay? So that's the biggest one. What can I influence? Then understand your emotional reactions to change. You know, why am I experiencing these emotional reactions? And I would go at this point to the 4 phases of change, right? So there are denial, resistance, exploration, and commitment. People need to recognize these behaviors in themselves. So I'll talk a little bit about that. People who are in denial tend to be shocked, right? They don't believe that something is happening. They really resist the change. They get quieter. So this is hard for leaders to really notice because these people tend to withdraw. They once were really participative in meetings. They touched base with their coworkers. They were interested. Now all of a sudden they're quiet at meetings. They're not offering feedback. They're not asking people how they're doing. Then you've got your people in resistance. This is much louder. This is much more obvious because these people tend to be angry and disruptive. And then you've got people in exploration who are like, okay, this is happening. I want to be successful. They're asking a lot of questions. They're seeking support. And then you've got your change champion who is like, woohoo, best thing since sliced bread. This is going to be great. So I like to use an analogy here to kind of help people understand how these 4 phases really occur during a change. So I like to talk about a breakup. Chrissy, have you had a breakup?
Oh my, maybe like a breakup?
Probably several.
No, I've never had a breakup. Right? I've had N million, N X squared. Yeah, I have had a breakup. Yeah.
I've had a few myself. So when your person says, I don't want to be with you anymore, most people go into denial. They're like, this isn't real. They broke up with me 6 months ago. We've broken up before. We'll be fine. Then that person leaves, right? You know it's real. They're dating someone else. They've moved out, whatever the case. A lot of people at this point get angry. They're blaming, right? You never really tried. Or they blame themselves. I didn't do the right thing. I could have been better. Then some time passes and you're like, you know what? Feeling bad ain't gonna fix it. So a lot of people move into exploration at this point. They're like, you know what? Can I get a new hobby? Can I get myself out of this funk? Maybe I want to put myself out on a dating site. More time passes and you're in commitment. You are with someone else. You're happy that person is not in your life and you're in the new normal, okay? So it really doesn't work very differently with organizational change. There can be shock, there can be anger, You can get into the point where you're inquisitive and you want to accept it. And then it's the new normal. You've accepted it. You've moved on. You're at the other side of it. It is also important to note that people bounce back and forth, right? We are interesting creatures. It's not this linear path that you can expect. You can be totally committed one day, and then that system breaks, or you have to ask a question, and all of a sudden you're back in resistance. You think it's stupid. You don't want to do it. So really understanding that emotional arc of change is critical, right? What am I experiencing? Where am I? But then identifying actions that you can take, activities that you can pursue to really empower yourself through change. So going back to communications, right? Get informed. Why, what, how, when, what's in it for me? Get involved, try to participate somehow. Take those training opportunities, help your colleagues. Getting involved is going to empower you. You'll feel like you are helping build a change, and you will therefore much more readily embrace it. Take action on those things that you can control, right? Going back to what can I influence? Try to embrace new opportunities. You know, sometimes like changes like reorgs, mergers, they create new positions, new jobs. They are more opportunity for you to grow. Or consider a system change, right? Or a new way of working. With changes like this, you can learn new skills and knowledge. It's another opportunity to grow. So really embracing the new opportunity, thinking it that way. Understanding your emotional reaction to change. Again, ask yourself, what is it about this change that is making me feel fearful, anxious, excited? Then consider all the ways we've discussed today already to empower yourself through the change and get the support that you need to feel good about it. Don't jump to conclusions, right? Or even make assumptions about upcoming changes. Make sure you're asking those clarifying questions to understand the vision and its implications. Why, what, how, when, with whom? I can't say that enough. Ask yourself, what can I do to make this change work? List all of the possibilities and then act on them. Help others, right? You are not the only one who is going through the change, and chances are you're not the only one who feels uncomfortable by it. And by helping others, you can really take the focus off of your situation, and in turn, it will actually help you better cope with the change yourself. You can help others by going out to lunch or taking a virtual coffee break, helping them get training, talking them through the process. Another thing that's really important is maintaining relationships, especially for changes like reorgs. You know, reach out to old coworkers, your old boss. Maintaining those deeper relationships is going to help you embrace the change that you are at. And then building the new relationships, right? So you want to keep the old ones, you want to maintain that, but you also need to start building relationships with the people that you're working with now. Again, all of this will help you cope with the change better. And finally, you know, accept rather than resist. By accepting the change rather than resisting, you are tackling that change head on. This will help you acknowledge those negative feelings rather than ignoring them or avoiding them. And this is how we move forward, right? We need to acknowledge first, see where we're at, take the appropriate action, and start to move forward. Stay positive, right? Again, it's an opportunity for learning and growth. Understand the benefits of the change, collaborate with others. Always go back to what can I influence, right? Well, I can influence my behaviors and my reactions to change, not that a change is happening. Then I'm going to be happier, okay? And at the end of the day, if I have a positive attitude, if I decide that I'm going to embrace new opportunities and that I'm going to stay positive, I'm going to be happier, I'm going to be more productive, and I'm controlling those things that are within my control. Instead of feeling like the world is happening to me, I can really control the world around me with my perception of it and my attitude. And finally, try to apply lessons learned, right? This is not the first change that you've gone through. You've gone through changes before. So how did you get through those? How did you navigate those changes? So these are all, I'd say, really important ways that we can really empower ourselves through change.
You know, I think it's funny and kind of like the WIFM, you call the WIFM, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
Is that, okay. So of course I'm sitting here thinking what's in it for me. And I was talking to my husband this morning, just excited about having you on the show. And I said something about, I don't like change, or I'm sick of changing, or something like that. And he said, are you kidding me? You thrive on change. You love change. You are always changing. And, you know, he's not wrong about that. And I was thinking about it a little bit because that's the truth. I love to when I go into a new role or something is changing around me, my attitude is at the height of my happiness. Like, I love it. I'm so excited. It's like when a new class starts, or if I'm going to start a new workshop and I'm going to learn some stuff. I guess I'd like to say that I just love to learn new stuff. If I'm really reflecting on it, the moment that I'm not learning something new, or I can't grow in the experience that I'm having, I am out the door. Like, I don't know how to kind of describe that any better. So the fact is that I think that because I'm out the door, people think that I couldn't handle the change, or I don't like the change maybe, or whatever it was, but it's actually like, I'm done. The change isn't continuing to happen. So have you seen a lot of people addicted to change? I wonder if you've ever had an addict of change.
Well, those are your change champions, right? You're always going to have those people, and they're wonderful to have because you can leverage those people to support others that are not maybe having the same positive reaction to change. And change is the constant, right? It's not going away, especially if you think about organizations. We can always go back to the Netflix Blockbuster example. You remember Blockbuster, right?
Oh, yeah.
It was like a thing. We went to Blockbuster, we got our popcorn, we got our candy. It was an event on Friday night, okay, Saturday, whatever. Blockbuster was huge. Well, then Netflix comes on the scene and they're like, yeah, I'm going to send DVDs to people in the mail. And Blockbuster was like, this isn't going to stick. They had the opportunity to buy Netflix and they passed on it because they couldn't see that the world was changing, that customers' demands were going to change. And obviously, as we all know, Blockbuster failed. Mm-hmm. Organizations have to constantly be on the lookout for change that is happening in the environment. Those customer demands that are changing. Let's think about Amazon, how significantly they have changed customer demand. Now we want our stuff in 1 to 2 days, done. And if you can't deliver it to me, I'm not going to shop with you. So change is the constant, and having the attitude that you have to embrace that and be excited about it, and always thinking this is an opportunity for me to develop new skills, to try something new. It's super exciting. Having that opportunity, having that attitude is really the way that we embrace change. And again, it always goes back to, and be a happier person. At the end of the day, you're a happier person when you really always think about, what can I influence? And I can influence my attitude, my behaviors, my decisions about a change. Not that change is going to happen, because that's not going away. Change is constant.
Okay, so I do have I have like 4 surprise questions for you that you're probably not used to getting. And maybe this one you are used to getting, but it is, what do you wish you knew when you first started in change management that you know today? Like, how would it have served you then?
All the things. Because I got a degree in it, right? I got a degree in organizational leadership with a focus on change management. But it's very different in theory than it is in practice, right? Because you're actually interacting with other human beings, and human beings are very different in their approach to life, and you're dealing with all sorts of different leaders. And guess what? They can resist what you're asking them to do, because they can resist change as well. So I would say that was the biggest surprise, that not everybody is going, help me help others, that sometimes they just want to focus on, you know what, I need to get these things done. And I don't have time to focus on people. So I wish that I knew earlier how to kind of smooth that over. I've gotten a lot better at really, persuading leaders of the importance of this. Because now that I've put it into practice, I know how important it is, which excites me. And when you're excited, it's easier to excite and encourage others. So now I've gotten to a point where I would say leaders, they're asking for me. They want me to be there. They've heard that it's really valuable. And that feels great. It feels great at the end of the day when they're like, thank you so much. This went so much more smoothly by providing them with that insight, with the tools, with the knowledge that they need to really smoothly transition people by considering the emotional reaction. I would say that.
So when people thank you at the end of the day, is that the what's in it for you?
Yeah. That is what's in it for me. Yes. It feels so good when they're like, you know what, this is actually a pretty smooth transition as compared to changes I have led in the past. That's what I want to do. It's a life changer. I want people to be happy at work. We want them to be more productive. We work so much, Chrissy, and you know that. We spend 75% of our lives working. So we want to feel like we have meaningful work, like we have a purpose, like we're happy at work. And I love to be able to give that to people in the best way that I can. And I think I'm able to do that by helping leaders successfully transition their people and make them as happy as possible throughout that kind of painful process.
What's the greatest compliment you've ever received?
Well, I mean, recently I was helping a leader go through a huge reorg. 16 teams were being impacted. 16 teams were going to be different with different reporting managers. It was huge. It was one of the larger changes that I have had to consult on. And she wrote me this really long email about how people were really receptive to the change, that after helping her with communication. So I not only help with the messaging, right? So what I do as a consultant is I really walk them through key messaging, the why, the what, the how, the when. Then I also build a communication plan for them, right? So who needs to hear it and when, and how do they need to hear it? Is it a one-on-one conversation with someone who's going to be more resistant than others? Is it a town hall? Is it a team meeting? Is it an email, right? So what's the best route? And she was really grateful for that, you know, helping her communicate it, helping her actually communicate it in the time that she needed to, in the right format, using the right materials. She just felt like she faced much less resistance. And what she said to me was, you taught me how to communicate. I never would have thought about these things. I would have just said, hey, we're doing this, go. She just didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. So that feels really good to be able to provide people with that insight so that they can, you know, better enable their people and equip them to change. So that felt pretty good.
That's okay, awesome. So my next question is, what's the most insulting comment you've ever received that you took as a compliment?
So I can immediately answer that. I once had a leader email my boss that I was very aggressive. And I thought, okay, well, that's kind of awesome because I do need to be assertive. I'm going to change that word. I do need to be assertive in my line of work. You know, I'm working with executives. I'm working with VPs and EVPs and directors. And you've got to almost prove to them that they should listen to you. You know, what does this little girl have to offer me? Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's the real world. So I actually took that as a compliment. I'm doing my job. I need them to understand that I'm credible and that, yes, I'm assertively going to help them guide their people, that I am on their level. So that can be a little tricky sometimes, but I took it as a compliment.
That's amazing. I think I love that. It also makes me wonder, like, if you weren't a little girl, if the wording would have been different. If you were a dude, would you have been called assertive? And I like that guy. He's assertive. He really gets it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder.
So yeah, me too. I wonder that as well.
That's funny. That's interesting. And so is there a big question? Is there one question that you wish I had asked you that I didn't?
You know, I think honestly that we hit the major points. It's what is change management? You know, I think that you did a brilliant job of really pulling out the information that people need to hear, which is how do leaders lead their teams through change? How can we as individuals empower ourselves through change? Those are the keys, right? So I appreciate that you asked the big questions. I think that you're a fabulous host.
That's fun. And here's all the fun. I know people are going to want to talk to you. They're going to want to seek you out. They're going to want to see if you can help them. They're going to want to whiffle, you know, what's in it for them. So the question is now, where can they find you and what are you offering them? And do you have anything special for them for listening or watching this podcast?
Okay. So you can always go to my website. That's the first point of contact. It is jen-hogue.com. So HOGUE. That really will give you all the information on what I do. But in terms of what I do, keynote speaker. So I can do an hour keynote. I can do an hour and a half. I can also do a workshop where people really get to participate in how to lead change or how to empower yourself. I've got a ton of activities that really help people put theory into practice. So the workshops can be a half day if you want it. I'm really flexible in terms of how much time you need. As to what they get from this, I will say this. I will work within your budget, right? So if you really need me, I do have certain pricing, but when it comes down to it, I really do love what I do. I want to help people. So I work within people's budgets. Now you know that if you're listening to this, so you can always say, Jen, can't do it. And I'll say, what can you do?
Love it. So you're saying that if they bring you in as a keynote speaker and you do a workshop, that they're going to have a ball listening to you talk about all the stuff that you just did, because everything you talk about it is what's in it for me as an employee, as an organizational leader, everybody in the room. But then they're also going to be able to do several of those fun exercises like this with the hands.
That would be one of them. That would be one of them. As leaders, I actually help you do things like build key messaging, build a communication plan, actually put the theory of how we navigate emotions on our team into practice. Most times when I get called into a change, it's because there's actually one happening. So we can focus on that change, and I can help them right there in the moment build things like the messaging, a communication plan, identifying resistance, applying best practices for mitigation on that. So we really do focus on a real change in real time, and I'm able to assist them in that way. Same thing with individuals. They are oftentimes going through a change. So we really get to talk about what is it about this change that makes you fearful, makes you anxious, maybe makes you excited. So really taking through an actual change that's happening and using the stuff that I've talked about today to leverage a more positive attitude and really get down to what can I influence, and ultimately, hopefully, allowing them to embrace the change more readily. The workshops are fun, you know. It needs to be fun. We actually learn better when we're having fun. So the workshops are fun. I would say today we have so much time, so we skim the surface. Really, in these trainings and workshops, we get into real detail, and we actually get to use these things I'm talking about and apply it to real life changes. That's what they get from it.
That sounds awesome.
You know.
I wish I had a huge business, because I would bring you in to do that, like
Okay.
monthly.
Well, when you do have that huge business, you know where to find me.
Yeah, I do it monthly. Jen, it has been amazing talking with you. I mean, the subject matter, I can be honest, in the beginning, I was like, well, this will be interesting to see what comes out of this, but everything you say is interesting. Like, it makes sense. I think that it could be a world train. It is a world game changer, worldwide could be. And I hope that my listeners seek you out. And I think that if my listeners have any questions that weren't answered, you seem like the kind of person who's so generous with your knowledge that you would welcome me reaching back out to you and giving those questions to you. And who knows, maybe we'll have to do another video podcast to get those questions answered.
I'm all in.
I love it. You have been an awesome guest. I am so grateful for you. For everybody else, it's www.jen-hogue.com, and that's HOGUE.com. And she is available for keynote speaking and fun workshops. You all have yourselves a beautiful day. And Jen, thanks again.
Thank you. You're a fabulous host. I appreciate your having me on.
Thanks.